Welcome to Focus on Claims with Ernie Bray, CEO of ACD.
Hey everybody, Ernie Bray here with ACD, and we got a new episode of Focus on Claims. Today, I got an interesting guest. Now, I got a lot of connections in the industry, and I was pointed towards somebody who actually has some experience in the tech side of the industry, and I wanted to bring him on. His name's Ethan Galloway of WAVV Communications. Now, Ethan has a background having worked in the insurance side, like I said, and has also been in the technology side, and is the veteran of the industry. So I wanted to get him on here, talk about the new company he's with. So welcome aboard, Ethan. Glad to have you on.
Hey, really excited to be here. Yeah, I just tuned in pretty recently to some of your other podcasts and love what you guys discuss on here and glad to be able to share and meet the community.
Well, thanks. And the thing about it is I always like to talk to people about innovation, entrepreneurship, technology, and we all know how this industry is going on the insurance side. There's so much transformation going on. You have all this technology that's coming into the market, but when it comes down to it, one of the key things is you can automate as much as you want. You can do all these things, but communication is the key that really is success for carriers and all the different vendors involved. If you can't communicate effectively, you're going to have problems because customers aren't going to be taken care of. And I was really interested. I heard about your product, help drive in efficiency and how it can help in that communication process. I was really intrigued. And hey, before we get started here, I know you're at in Utah, right? The Silicon Slopes of the area. So what's going on? I've heard so much in the news about that areas with technologies. All these type of companies are just booming.
Yeah, it's true. Utah has been the place to be the last 5 years, and especially right now, it has picked up so much steam and traction in the tech community and tech in all the different sectors. But even, insurance tech and automotive tech, we've got, just our valley here, Utah Valley, Salt Lake County is just the mountains are lined with these companies that continue to not only pop up, but then grow and be successful. And so it's been a really positive environment, really energizing to be able to be a part of that here. When I helped launch another business and then moving on and joining WAVV. So
that's awesome. And with that, tell us a little bit about your background. I know you'd been in sort of the towing space, but I'd love to hear about your background, your entrepreneurial journey a little bit. How did you get involved in the tech space and start? I know in the startup side. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, definitely. I was a recent graduate. I had studied economics, finished there at BYU, so here in Provo, Utah. And I was approached by a friend. He had a partner. They had started a business, and it was essentially a dispatch platform for towing operations. And anyway, I joined them as the first employee of the company. And, we were going out and kind of banging on doors of tow companies and telling them how they could replace paper with a mobile app, right? And they could be doing just simple things, simple adjustments. And that's kind of what kicked off an intro to automotive and insurance in the insurance space. And so, towing, we grew that into, more of a roadside assistance. We launched a tow network. And we actually picked up some dispatch projects that were claims dispatching for some of the top 3 estimators in the space. And so we were working with good guys. I mean, we had Jimmy Spears consulting for us. Charles Lukens was our CEO. He had been in the space for a long time. And so that's where I started to get to know people and meet them, was through that experience at Omadi. And yeah, it was wild. So we had raised, in about 5 years there, we took the road of venture capital. We raised $22 million while we were there, and they're doing great things with it still today.
Did you find at that time that people were still really heavy paper centric operations everywhere?
Especially in the space we were in, working with those towing and roadside assistance providers. I know on your end of it, right, you're getting there after the accident has taken place. And so our guys, a lot of times, were the first ones on scene, and they get out and they pull out their tow slips and their notebook that are carbon copy papers. And then to be able to pass that information on to insurance companies and everyone else involved became a nightmare. And so really digitizing their process provided a ton of efficiency.
That's the funny thing about it. When I look back in my career in the claims business, it's been like you had so much paper going on, and then you see the digitization of the process where you're basically taking, paper-centric things, digitizing them, and you're pushing digital paper around. I'm so excited. I think this industry where we're at has so much opportunity. I think we're now going to get to the point where now you're taking not just digitizing paper, you're now trying to get creative and innovative, say, hey, okay, how can I predict things? How can I use technologies to basically make people more efficient? Besides just moving paper around, you're using technology in so many different ways, and I, like when we were talking about your new company here, the company you're part of, is that bringing that communication factor in, helping automate, but still keeping that personal touch. And so how'd you end up over at WAVV? How'd that process start?
Yeah. So actually at Almaty, we had hired the first product manager we ever hired. He came in and he really helped us, beautify the product and make it a lot more user friendly. Well, he and a partner started WAVV, and WAVV Communications. Their background is fascinating. So they were working with a lead management company in the real estate space, actually. And so in real estate, these guys were providing leads to agents. And what they realized is agents were having to go through this manual process to go out and contact all of these leads, right? They were either dialing it on their phone or having to export and import into some other system that allowed them to make efficient contacts. And so they had the idea of just totally embedding this efficient communication in that lead management platform. And so that's what they did. The first product was a power dialer. And so they launched the dialer in the product, and that's kind of the beginning of WAVV Communications. So those two guys, they recruited me over from Almaty, kind of with the goals not to replace human communication, right? That crucial element of building relationships, but to really enable human communication, right? To give them a high-powered calling functionality, a power dialer, or to give them really efficient texting with a lot of text automation, but still comes right back to a person at the end of the day.
Yeah, and what I was interested about is when you showed me, and I'd like to go, briefly a little bit about the power dialer and then also the messenger. What intrigued me about this is that, you said you're using it in different spaces right now. We'll talk a little bit about some of the companies that use it, but I was intrigued about how it could be utilized in the claims industry, because that's an area where you get situations where there's lots of, contacts that have to be made. People have to be contacted, but at the same time, a lot of people are not available. They don't answer their phones. But then for an adjuster or an appraiser or people involved in this value chain, they could sit there and literally be on so many different phone numbers, one after another. They spend so much time being inefficient, where it seems to me that what you're providing here is a way to really be more efficient in their day. So if you can go into the power dialer thing, that's what I was really intrigued about. Tell us a little bit about that and how it works.
Yeah. So just thinking about someone who needs to contact a whole bunch of people as a part of their day to day, right? And this applies to so many industries. But let's start just right here in insurance. So you get assigned a whole bunch of claims, right? That you've got to reach out to these vehicle owners. You've got to make contact with them, and you make the first phone call and no one answers. And so then you spend the extra few seconds and you're going to leave them a voicemail and tell them who you are and why you're calling. And then you're going to, shuffle back to the list, and you're going to find the next one. And you're going to dial it into your cell phone and then hit call and just repeat that process. And so maybe by an hour's time goes by and you've made 10 phone calls. And what happens to me, I think happens to a lot of people, is when you're in that process, there are so many distractions, right? You make your second call and then you realize, man, I could really go for some more coffee right now. So you get up and you go do that. Or, you make your third and fourth call and then you're like, wow, I'm actually feeling hungry again. Everything becomes a distraction when you've got a list of people to call. And what's really cool is, so we empower any platform out there today with a power dialer. A power dialer can bring so much automation to the calling. So just two examples, right? As soon as you place a call and, intelligently the system, realizes that no one's answering, it goes to a voicemail. You can just click a button to leave a pre-recorded message on their device, right? So you're going to record that call that says why you're calling and who you are and what you need. And you don't have to spend the time to do that. You click that button. As soon as you do, it's going to move right on to the next call and immediately start dialing for you. And so in that process, 10 phone calls can take, 2 to 5 minutes.
Wow.
And so then when you look at about it in an hour, so our dialer is clocked at being able to make 80 contacts per hour. And that's anticipating that a certain number of people just aren't going to pick up. That's how it gets to so many. But that enables you to make, more connections, more actual conversations in less time.
And one thing I was asking now, you said, are there ways to kind of like, if somebody doesn't pick up, to automate sort of the message that's left so they can, that owner can return that call instead of having to basically leave a message every time?
Yeah, exactly. So in our product, that's what we call voicemail drop. And so before you're gonna, call today's, list of customers, right? Before you're gonna pick up the phone and start dialing, you can just, record a voicemail, and then that's available to you anytime someone doesn't pick up, just at the click of a button. And so all you do
powerful.
is
That's powerful right there.
right. So it speeds it up tremendously. And we've seen a lot of different strategies with it. So, really, you can record a really specific kind of campaign type voicemail, or you can have something that's more generic that you use all the time.
I mean, could this be used in some, I don't know, customer service, survey type solutions as well, just to do outreach to customers and get feedback?
Yeah, definitely. So some of the biggest use cases today are in the sales environment. So doing, prospecting and follow up. It's interesting though, that's a space you have to be careful with. You have to make sure you're aware of the laws, right? There's regulations around TCPA. And if you're calling, leads in that environment, you need that permission and opt-in lead. But like you pointed out, another really great use case is in the customer service environment. So, those conversations are a huge enabler of relationships, right? And whether that conversation takes place over text or over the phone, I mean, personally, I feel like I can always tell when it's a bot on the other side or it's a real person on the other side. And I genuinely love talking to other people. And I think people appreciate that. And so in customer service, when you have a lot of contacts to be made, bringing that automation takes so much of the pain out of the calling. And so, making it quick, making it easy, embedding it in the tools you already use, so you're not having to jump between multiple platforms to make calls. That's what we're about. We're about making it easy, making it efficient.
Well, that sounds good. And I think the thing is, with this kind of industry, and especially on the claim side, there's high call volume because it's an industry where you have to make a lot of contacts. And my question is this: so you said it could be embedded. It can be embedded easily in different platforms, so they don't have to really go out and try to recreate some and log in and out of systems. It's like, so how does it work? Is it like a widget, or how does it embed in typically?
Yeah. So so we have a toolbar. So the power dialer, it lives within a toolbar that, I mean, literally just like a widget or an overlay, just kind of goes right into any other platform, generally across the top. And so then what that does is that toolbar really brings to life any phone numbers that exist in the system. So if you're looking at a list, you can select the whole list, hit dial, and it sends it up into WAVV, just like a campaign of numbers. And that's what allows the automation. If you just need to make one phone call though, and you still don't want to pick up your phone and punch that in manually, you can just click to call, right? So
click to call on the screen of that number. So it makes that number sort of a live number then. Click it, boom, it comes up on your headset and you're live. It starts dialing.
And then what's really great is there's this manual process after every call, right? So after every call, well, you've got to tell the people you're working for that you did your job, right? So you've got to go back and log that activity or log that call and kind of make sure you're getting credit for the work you do.
Right.
When you embed WAVV into a platform, that's all automatic, right? So then we just, through the API, we send back into like an activity history the fact that call happened. And so we're saving you time in making the calls, bringing it, more efficient, but also literally eliminating some of the steps of logging those activities with automation.
And that's good, because I mean, the key in insurance, and I was taught this from day one, 25 years ago, is that if you don't document it, it didn't happen. And for adjusters, the key is a lot of times they're making these calls and they're having to do a lot of manual tasks. So if it documents this for them and shows they made these calls, their manager knows what's going on and everybody's informed. I think that's a real powerful part. Going over from the dialer, but how does the messenger work? And that's embedded as well. How's the whole messenger part?
Yes. So you can really think about it just like when you log into LinkedIn, right? And you click on the messenger and the little window pops up at the bottom. We have a very similar style, a very similar approach to how we handle messaging. And so every number, again, clickable. So you've got the option to call or text. When you click on it, when you hit text, the little window pops up at the bottom.
Yep.
We actually have a modal you can bring on screen. So you can expand that little window into something bigger because we enable you to save like template messages as well. So when you have, activities that you have to do on repeat, right? A lot of the same type of outreach. And we can think, of a lot of use cases here in insurance. So let's say you get assigned to a cat event.
Yep.
And then in this event, you're going to have, dozens, if not, tens and dozens of customers to reach out to. And that message is very similar. Is it an event regarding a hailstorm or a flood or something else? And so you can, templatize an outreach, and then you click on the number, and just hit send. And what's really cool is you can do all that from your computer, right? So you're kind of at the comfortable office space, but we know a huge part of the job is on the go. And so with messaging, it's fully mobile as well. So no matter when or where you get a reply to that text, it's going to have the little pop up if you're still at your computer and notify you of that. But you also get the push notification through the mobile app. And so that texting goes with you everywhere you do, just like your phone.
I think that's very powerful. And like you said, especially in these kind of events, we'll talk about that in a minute here, is the situation of having to make all these numerous outreaches. Because really it's the most problems happen when there's moments of uncertainty in this claims process. That's where customers and where the ability of a claim to go, bad happens. And I think this allows for not missing these communications. You're making these outreaches and you're documenting them. So I think that's very powerful. So give me a little bit of an idea, how right now, it doesn't have to be the claims industry, but like how some people have had success utilizing the solutions, like in what kind of industries right now, like where there's been real, activity.
Yeah, definitely. So we got our launch in the real estate space. And so early on, we picked up some fantastic partners who embedded our dialing products and our texting products into their platform and then offered them up to all their customers to really create that efficient communication. And I think one of the best success stories, actually a company probably local to where you're at, they're out of San Diego. They're called Lion Desk. They actually had built some of their own dialing products in an early version of their software. And anyone who's really dug into that knows how complicated they are to build. And so we look at this huge success as, somebody who actually replaced existing product that they had homegrown with this really easy to implement integration that we offer, right? And so they did that and they offer it out to all their customers. But the success here, I think, is actually Lion Desk themselves. What's really cool is their internal sales team was successfully, getting it out to their customers. And they realized this would help us. This would help our business. We should be dialing, with this type of efficiency. And so they made this pivot where they continue to offer it, but they now use it internally too, right? That's awesome. Eat the dog food. And we look at that. So the week that they launched their own team on it, they were like the top, dialers in terms of number of minutes on the dialer. They spend tons of time on the phone, with their job. And so that was really fun to be able to kind of play on both sides, right?
That's great.
You only offer up WAVV through partners, right? Through reseller partners that have done our integration. That's where you'd go to get it. And so to see a partner not only, out there offering it to their customers, but using it themselves and doing that and being able to make immensely more contacts with customers and build those relationships, we see that as a huge win.
And we were talking about on our call we had chatted before when I was getting to know you in the business, is that hey, there's some areas I think in this claim side that really have CAT events. We're chatted on a little bit before. CAT events are just like the prime opportunity, because when you have hundreds and hundreds of claims all at one time, you can really drive efficiency. I mean, have you had any interest in that from people? Or, I just see it as a huge opportunity.
Yeah. So we're just getting back into the space, which I'm really excited about because, like I said, at Omadi, I had an introduction there.
Right.
Our tow network actually did a ton of auction towing, and so we were always out in Louisiana or Florida or you name it, where where that hurricane would be hitting.
Yep.
And we were coordinating tows into all of these salvage auctions. And so a very similar situation, right? You've got to make tons of contacts. And when you're doing that manually and you're leaving it, a voicemail every time to that person, it slows down the work that you do. And so being able to automate that and, and then, like we said, provide that transparency in the actual effort that goes into this. Because sometimes with the CAT event, you're so focused on reaching out to everyone, and you're doing that on your cell phone, and you're, sending these texts and making these calls manually. You don't always have time to go back and log it in every system that you're receiving assignments from. And so by embedding that communication efficiency, embedding a power dialer or text messaging into the platforms, having it auto log, we see CAT events, really turning into not so stressful of a scenario, right? Where you can use those tools, those high powered tools, to make outreach in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, I agree. And in some of the conferences I've been on and podcasts and hosting claims events, because heck, everything this year has been all virtual. So I've done a ton of those events, and everything we're talking about, and all the claims executives, the VPs, anybody in the innovation side, everybody's always talking about, how can we take this technology that exists today? How can we, obviously the straight through touchless claim is the dream that a lot of people, that's where they want to be eventually. And I have my own opinions on that. I'm a big believer at our company. We're always trying to remove touch points along the way and along the process to give that adjuster more time. Just my first initial, talking with you about your solution, to me, that's giving more time back to an adjuster. You're giving them more time to be more efficient. And I think any carrier, to me, it seems like this is something that even a carrier could just be using. They could probably build it into their system or integrate it in their platform, because if they have their own systems or whatever they're doing, they can make their own staff more efficient. Because if they're texting, because a lot of people want to text these days, they don't want to be called on the phone,
And so there are a couple of key things that we do differently than most that enable exactly what you're talking about. And so any system an adjuster has to interface with, in the course of servicing these assignments, any of them could choose to integrate WAVV.
Yep.
And what's really great is, we sometimes get the question, well, does that mean I have to use your phone number, right? So if I'm making calls, do you issue me a phone number that, now what if they call back, and how does that process work?
Yep.
So we have a feature that we call Choice ID. And so think about this as your caller ID, and you get to choose it. And you choose from any number that you own today. Now, to be compliant, you have to validate that you own the number. So you have to, receive a text or a call. But if you're an adjuster and you want to use these high-powered tools, the caller ID that you're calling with can still show your cell phone number or your office number or your team's number. Whatever number you choose, you can use that Choice ID feature.
Oh, okay.
And and when you're making calls out, make it extremely easy to just plug right back into the process you already have today for receiving that call back.
That's great. So that makes it very easy. So it's not going to be a situation where they're getting some weird number from middle of nowhere. They know it's coming from, if you own the number, you can put it in there. That's great. That's great.
Yep.
So, like I said, I think this insurance side has a lot of opportunity. I think there's a ton of opportunity in the claims. Heck, even probably on the sales side and there's so many opportunities that, we were talking about. We're excited about, potentially partner with you guys. We're already talking about that, because my goal with our technology in 2021 here, we're pushing to continue that drive. That's what's exciting about your company. Hey, what's some of the things you've gone through? As an entrepreneur, being at the prior company, even here now, what are some of the things you think are challenges you've had to deal with? Especially maybe even on the insurance side, or just breaking in, just for some advice for people out there. What are some of the challenges you've had to overcome to get people to adopt technology? Now, I'll preface it this. Obviously, this pandemic thing has been a different March. A lot of people's eyes opened up. They were willing to listen to more technology. But I think prior to that, there was a little resistance to making change. But what are some of the things you've seen out there?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We take a non-traditional approach to these integrations, right? Mm-hmm. And so you think about a software platform like yours or another one that has the option now to offer these efficient communication tools to their customer. Well, before we came along, the options were really on a spectrum, right? On one side, you had to build it yourself, which is a huge investment, not only of time, but of dollars, actual dollars that it takes to get people to build good product into your platform. And then on the other side, you had like third-party systems that exist totally separately and outside today And so the traditional approach has been you just build like a little integration that's a data feed between them. You'd pass numbers outside of the core platform to maybe a dialer. And there's lots of dialers that have existed for years, but that they've always been that third party model. And so we try to really bridge the gap between those options, right? Where we come together and we say, we're going to bring the power of a third-party tool, the speed to market of a third-party tool, and completely embed it in the home system, in the core product being used. And funny enough, that's been a struggle. So getting people to really wrap their head around how the options aren't this dichotomous, right? They're not build it yourself or go send someone to a third party, but it's really bringing those together and giving them the feel as if it's a native product. And doing it by partnering, which just it gives people so much speed to market. And so when you're a customer who needs to be able to communicate more efficiency, it's nice to know that all of the softwares you use have that option now today. But that's the struggle, is getting people to realize, kind of there's a new way to go about it. There's a new way to look at these integrations. It's been difficult to tell that story.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think a lot of times carriers at first, they get kind of nervous about it, and they want to build themselves. And they realize that, hey, there's a lot of partnership opportunities out these days. And I think that's really key. And, so as we're getting ready to wrap up here, I wanted to kind of this is just for entrepreneurs out there, insurtech people out there in the industry. This is I want to give a little bit of knowledge to them. So from you being in that startup community and knowing this, what would be some advice you give somebody that's looking to get into the business, become an entrepreneur? Because I like to get a little insight from everybody out there that's done this, because we all know the entrepreneurship is it's fun. I love it. And it can be a tough road, but give me some insight to our listeners out there. Somebody wants to take the lead.
And that's a good question. And I've got a lot more to learn. But I'll tell you a few things that have been on my mind this year in particular. That's been a struggle for so many, is when you're looking at entrepreneurship and you're looking at business, I sometimes think it's more important who you work with, even more so than what you do for work. And so I say that, in choosing a partner, I would always choose to do it with someone over do it alone. But it's really my wife that taught me this, is she's like, just be careful who you go and partner with on these initiatives, because it will take a huge commitment to be a success. It'll take a lot of work, and you want someone there on the journey with you that's as committed as you are, that has the values that you have, that you appreciate. And sometimes more important than what you do, it's who you do it with.
Hey, that's some really good advice. That's awesome advice, because that's so important, because a lot of people realize the entrepreneurship it's not just about the business. It's about all those things you're going to have to go through with a business partner, the ups and downs. You need somebody that's going to be with you through thick and thin and be able to, you can work with. That's great tips. Well, give our listeners anything you guys got going on at WAVV right now you want to talk about, or anything that's going on, some exciting news that you'd like to share with the audience.
Yeah, well, we've got a couple of things kind of in the pipeline for our customers that we're really excited about. And so let's see, what ones can I tell you?
Whatever you can say without, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we've talked a lot about, two of our product suites, one around telephony, right? The power dialer and making calls, the other about messaging. So within those, we are about to release a Chrome plugin. So Google Chrome, Chrome plugin that would actually bring these products to anywhere that you are on Google Chrome, right? To any website, to any landing page, anywhere that you need to make calls off the internet, or send text off the internet. We're going to release that plugin, and that will give anyone using WAVV just a ton of freedom to not have to wait for a new integration to be built, but to just go start using it, because nearly all products have gone web-based, right? Everyone's online now. That is a standard. It has been for many years, but it took some people a little while to get there. And with the new plugin, our customers are going to be able to go use our products, literally anywhere online. And that's something that's really exciting for us, to bring that efficiency everywhere you go, and not have any restrictions.
That's awesome. All right. Well, it's been great having you on, and we're going to wrap it up here. But I want to, before we go, we are working on something right now, both of our companies, where we have our Clarity platform that's coming out in 2021. We've dived in to get that, and we're talking about putting some integration of of your tools into the platform and working together. And we're continuing that. We're working on that. But if you're, let our listeners know, like if there's a carrier out there or somebody that, how can they get a hold of you to see a demo of all these tools? Just let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you, get in touch and see what you guys offer.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, we hope we can put something together with you really soon and start to, share the tools that way. And so I'd always say, look here first. But in the meantime, just jumping onto our website, wavv.com, WAVV's WAVV, so wavv.com, and jump there, fill out a contact form or just go ahead and give us a call directly. And we'd love to get connected with you and explore the opportunities of bringing that efficient communication to your platform or to your day-to-day, conversations. And on the website, you can also find, other partners that have already gone through that process, that have already integrated and are offering it out to thousands of users to be able to power their calling. And
awesome. Like I said, I'm excited about working together with you guys because for us, everything we can do to help streamline that process is what I'm passionate about. It's about streamlining the whole, process to eliminate those touch points. And I think I was really impressed with what you guys had to offer and how we could embed that in there, because if we can drive efficiency, we'll be a better company. And that in turn gives our customers and clients a better solution at the end. They get a better product, they get better service. And that's what we're driving for. So it's been great having you on. I love hearing these stories like this. And I think, when this episode comes out, I think people are going to be realizing, hey, one more tool in the toolbox to help drive that efficiency. So Ethan, it was great having you on.
Yeah, thanks, Ernie. We really have appreciated it.
You got it. All right. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
This has been Focus on Claims with Ernie Bray, President and CEO of ACD.